ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। हरि ओम। We are studying the commentary of Bhagavad Shankaracharya on the Brahma Sutras. We are now studying his commentary on the fourth Sutras. So here he is now setting aside or refuting the objection of Purva Paksha of the Mimamsakas. So he said that the state of liberation or moksha, that which is called moksha, is the unembodied state, asharira. That is the state which is free from repeated birth and death. That state is being referred to as moksha. That state is free from pleasure and pain. That state is also free from any injunctions or prohibitions. That state is free from any kind of sense interactions. That is what Shankaracharya is saying. Now he continues that argument. He now talks about the nature of this unembodied state, the state of moksha. He says, also he gives the reason why this state cannot be the cause of any particular action, because then it will make no sense. He says, ashariratvam dharma karyam iti chet na tasya swabhavikatvat. He says that ashariratvam eva indeed, ashariratvam, the state of being unembodied, not being attached to a particular body. Generally, we all are attached to a particular body and mind. We identify with a particular body and mind. But if there is a state which is non-identification with any body and mind, and that state is called moksha, as has been told in the previous passages. Dharma karyamiti chet. But that state that is called moksha, moksha akhya, that which is the unembodied state, a state of not being identified or not having any identification with body and mind, if that state, dharma karyam iti chet. Iti chet, chet means if that state were to be the effect of performing dharma. And we know from the Mimamsa Sutras themselves that dharma is the injunction given in the Vedas to perform a particular action. So if the state of being unembodied, if it were the effect of dharma, that means performance of Vedic rituals. If it were the state of dharma, that is performance of Vedic rituals, then na means that cannot be so. What cannot be so? It cannot be the effect of performance of Vedic rituals. Why can't it be the effect of performance of Vedic rituals? Because tasya swabhavikatvat. Because we know that Brahman or Atman, its natural state is the unembodied state. Atman's natural state, this natural state of Atman is the unembodied state. So we don't need to do anything to bring that state. That is the idea. So if you, for example, in cooking, if you were to put sugar and honey and candy and all that and ghee, then whatever you cook will be very good to eat, because that is the nature of sugar, ghee, etc. So even though what you have cooked basically is nothing, you add all these things and it will become very tasty because of the swabhava of the ingredients. So there is nothing great in that cooking. Similarly, it is the swabhava or the nature of Brahman. Brahman's nature is unembodied nature. It does not identify with anything else. It is swatantra, it is free. If it is nitya mukta, shuddha swabhava, here in the Brahma Sutra Bhashya itself, Shankaracharya has said that it is eternal, it is free, and it is pure. That is its swabhava, that is its nature. If that is the nature, then how can you do something and bring about unembodied state? Dharma karyam means how can it be the effect of dharma? That means you don't have to perform Vedic rituals to bring this unembodied state to Brahman, because that is the state, that is its natural state. How the Upanishads say so, and the Upanishads are being quoted here. Ashariram sharireshu anavasteshu avasthitam mahantam vibhum atmanam matva dhiro na sochati. So this is being quoted from the Katha Upanishad. What is it? It is said, ashariram sharireshu anavastheshu avasthitam. So sharireshu ashariram, among bodies it is the unembodied, or it is the not body. It is ashariram means it is not a body. Among shariram, sharira, among bodies. So among bodies it is something which is not the body, which is not embodied, or which is unembodied. So apparently you see that a body is identified by a person, but that person, that particular soul is essentially Brahman, Atman. That is why, truly speaking, Advaita Vedantis do not like to use the word Jivatma, because Atma is Atma, there is no Jivatma. This very fact that you are considering a soul to be individual soul, as Swami Vivekananda makes a pun or makes an emphasis, he emphasizes this word individuality. So individuality people are afraid to lose. So the fact that somebody is considering one's soul to be individual soul is only the effect of Maya, Adhyasa, Avidya, Ajnana. It is ignorance which makes you think that you are individual, you are separate from the other, because there is no other. Ekameva advitiyam. There is no other, there is only one. And that one is not one like in mathematics. It is not a one which is preceded by 0 and succeeded by 2. So it is one. There is no other. And if that is the case, then you are not the body. When I say you are not the body, that is also wrong, because there is no you. That is the thing. So ashariram sharireshu. When everyone thinks that one is a body, the truth remains that Atman is not the body. So in the realm of ignorance, the truth remains that the ultimate reality, or the only reality, which continues to be present in all phases of time, that is in the past, in the present, and in the future, that reality is unembodied. It does not have any name. It does not have any form. It is beyond name and form. Beyond name and form. In spiritual life, much emphasis is given on annihilation of the ego. Ego should be removed. Ego should be destroyed. The only obstacle is ego. Sri Ramakrishna says in Bengali, Ami molle guchibe janjal. If I dies, then all trouble vanishes. Why? Because it is the I which separates you from your true reality. I causes division. It thinks, it makes you feel, it makes you think that you are separate from the others. So that is the problem with I. So here, ashariram sharireshu. Among bodies, it is an unembodied. That means among the apparent understanding of bodies, this is unembodied. This is really, there is no body. So there is nobody. There is only one body, no body. That means there is only one body without any body. Anavasteshu avasthitam. Anavastha means temporary. So everything is temporary. There is only one thing which is permanent. Avasthitam, which is nitya, which is eternal. What is that eternal? Everything cannot be temporary. If everything is temporary, who will witness that which is temporary? So you cut an apple, keep it in front of you. After some time, you see the apple converting into black, it becoming black. So you are having relatively a longer existence. If you did not have a longer existence, how can you see that the apple has turned color? Black or brown, whatever, it changes its color. So how will you see that? How will you see the change? Only because you are there remaining a little longer than the apple. So you have a pet, a dog or something, and then the dog dies, you cry, maybe make a grave also, something, because you live longer than the dog. Suppose a person who has a dog dies earlier than the dog, then the dog will cry. That person will be in the grave or be cremated, as whatever the case may be. So who sees that something is temporary? That which is less temporary. Or who will see whatever happens in the universe, that which does not change, that is not temporary. That's only one thing, that is Brahman. Unless Brahman only can witness the entire universe, because Brahman is unchanging. So now one may say, but how does Brahman witness? Brahman has no form, Brahman has no sense organs. It is beyond the sense organs. So how does one witness? It's a manner of speaking. Brahman does not witness in that sense as we witness things. Brahman is the substratum. Brahman is the foundation. It is on which the entire universe is built. It is on which entire universe is built. So we go to our rope and snake example. Without the rope, there will be no snake. Without Brahman, there will be no universe. And so in this Katha Upanishad, it is said, Ashariram sharireshu. The unembodied among the embodied, or the unembodied among different bodies. Anavasteshu avasthitam. The eternal or the nitya, the real among those which are transitory, temporary. Mahantam vibhum atmanam. What is it? It is the Atman. It is the Atman, Brahman, which is Mahantam, which is great, Mahantam, which is great and which is vast. Mahantam, Vibhum. Vibhu means all pervading. Mahantam, Vibhum, Atmanam, Matva Dhiraha na Shochati. Dhiraha, the wise person, W-I-S-E, wise person. Matva, thinking of this Atman, which is vast. Vast means which is great, and which is Vibhum, which is all pervading. Thinking of that Atman. Matva dhirahana shochati. Thinking of that Atman means knowing oneself to be that Atman. Knowing oneself to be that Atman, na shochati. Now this also is told many places. Na shochati. does not sorrow. Shokam tarati atmavit. In the Chandogya Upanishad it said, Shokam tarati atmavit. Atmavit, the knower of Brahman or knower of Atman, transcends sorrow. Shokam tarati atmavit. How does the knower of Brahman transcend sorrow? How? So here also it is said, Matva dhiraha na shochati. So all attachment to transitory things produces pain. Whenever you are attached to something which is temporary or transitory, and then it goes away. So suppose you are attached to a person, and that person has got an expiry date. Everybody has an expiry date. Only, it's funny, only we see the expiry date of medicine or food items. We don't see the expiry date of ourselves. Everybody has expiry date. Only we don't have it stamped on ourselves. There is no law which says that if a boy is born or girl is born, they should stamp the expiry date, manufacturing time itself. Like that, nothing is their rule. But we all have expiry date. And so when we see somebody expire, when we see somebody die, give up this physical body, or the physical body of that person perishes, then we are sad, we get disturbed, we feel pain. Why does that happen? Because we have got attached to something which stops existing. So somebody has a mobile phone and the mobile phone is lost or it stops functioning properly. Then that person has got a problem. Dukkha, shoka comes. But if you know that your true reality, your true nature is not changing, it is not disturbed, it is not temporary, it is not going to be affected, then you don't shochati, you don't sorrow, you don't grieve. That is why Atmavit, the knower of Brahman, transcends sorrow. Because the knower of Brahman knows that there is nothing to be sad about. There is nothing for which you should sorrow or grieve. There is nothing to grieve for. And so that is why Brahman, Atman, if one knows that one's nature is Brahman or Atman, then that person is free from this sorrow. Aprano hi amanaha shubbraha, in the Mundaka Upanishad. Shankaracharya quotes now the Mundaka Upanishad. Apranaha hi amanaha shubbraha. So what is that Brahman? So here Brahman is being talked of, that self is being talked of, because the argument here is that if the self, that is moksha, is nothing but the unembodied state, and if one were to say that this unembodied state called moksha, moksha akhya, called moksha, were to be the result of or the effect of dharma, then that cannot be so, because the unembodied state or the state called moksha is the natural state of the self. To prove that, he is quoting all the Upanishads. And here he quotes Mundaka Upanishad, which says, Apranaha hi amanaha. So self or Atman or Brahman is not prana. It is free from prana. That means it is beyond prana. Pranamaya kosha. We know there are pancha koshaha, 5 sheaths or 5 coverings over our true nature. First is Annamaya kosha. Second is Pranamaya kosha. Third is Manomaya kosha. Fourth, Vijnanamaya kosha. Fifth, Anandamaya kosha. So there are 5 coverings. Now this Annamaya kosha is there. Manomaya kosha is there. Annamaya kosha, Pranamaya kosha, and Manomaya kosha. Now Pranamaya kosha, none of these koshas or sheaths are the true nature, our true nature, or Atman or Brahman. None of these koshas is Atman or Brahman. That is the idea. So, aprana hai, it is beyond or it is above, higher than prana. It is not prana. He, amanaha, indeed it is not the mind. So, what is Atman or Brahman? It transcends thought. It transcends the body. It transcends the prana. It transcends all the five koshas. So it is beyond that. It transcends the three states of Jagrat, Swapna, Sushupti. It is called the Turiya Avastha. It is called the state of absolute consciousness. But this is what is told here in the Mundaka Upanishad. Aprano hi amanaha shubra. Shubra means white. Here it means pure. Shubra. Shubra, pure. So what is pure? Atman is pure. Atman is pure. It does not have any prana. It does not have any mind. Then in the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad it is said, Asango hi ayam purusha. Asango. Asanga means unattached, without having any attachment. He, indeed, this Purusha, this self, is unattached. Unattached. So, Ataeva, therefore, that is why, Anushtheya karma phala vilakshanam moksha akhyam ashariratvam nityam iti siddham. So, ityadi shrutibhihi Shrutibhyah, all these Shrutis, that is the portions from the Vedas, like from the Kathopanishad, Mundaka Upanishad and Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, they talk about the natural state of Atman or Brahman, which is the unembodied state. Which is the unembodied state. So it is not, or it cannot logically be caused by the effect of dharma. It cannot be so, because the effect of dharma means the effect of an action, whereas here the state of the unembodied state is only natural to dharma, Brahma or Atman. It is only natural state of Brahma or Atman. Brahman or Atman. Atev, therefore, or we can also conclude that Anushtheya karma phala vilakshanam moksha akyam ashariratvam. Ashariratvam, the unembodied state, also called moksha, moksha akyam, or the unembodied state called moksha, is Anushtheya karma phala vilakshanam. It is distinct from the fruits of actions which are anushtheya, which have to be performed. Anushtheya karma phala vilakshanam. So there will be some karma which has to be performed, that is according to dharma. That means a Vedic ritual which has to be performed, and out of which a particular fruit will come. Vilakshanam, it is distinct. Vilakshanam, distinct. What is distinct? The unembodied state of Atman or Brahman is so distinct from the fruits of action which is performed. Fruits of action which is performed. And this unembodied state is nityam. It is nityam. It is permanent. It is siddham. It has been proved. So hence proved. What is proved? That it is hence proven that the unembodied state is eternal. It is eternal, and it is different from, it is also called moksha, and it is so different from the fruits or the results of performing Vedic rituals. The results of performing Vedic rituals. So afterwards, Shankaracharya goes on to explain the nature of Brahman. Explain the nature of Brahman. What is Brahman? Let us first understand that. That is the idea. Tatra kinchit parinami nityam syat yasmin vikriyamane api tadevedam iti buddhihi na vihanyate. So Shankaracharya says tatra kinchit parinami nityam syat. So tatra means tatra kinchit. In these particular, in the particular context of, say, there are so many things, if one may say, there are so many things which are eternal. Like that, if some may say. It is not possible, it is logically it doesn't make sense that more than something, one thing can be eternal. More than one entity cannot be eternal. Because if more than one entity is eternal, then both entities, suppose there is A and B. A is also, suppose for argument's sake, we say A is also eternal, B is also eternal. Then what happens? Then wherever A is present, there B is not present. So it cannot be eternal in space, because in the location where A is present, B is not present. So it is not eternal in space. So there, this eternity is affected. So that is why you cannot say that two entities are eternal together. But parinami nityam, tatra kinchit parinami nityam. So here, that kind of a idea is there, that tatra kinchit, some things parinami nityam syat. So here many eternal things are thought of, and there kinchit parinami nityam syat. Some are nityam, or they can be called without change while parinama is going on, while transformation is going on. While transformation is going on, then these transformations can be seen as something which is there, but at the same time, they don't affect the nature of the thing which is being transformed, which is being transformed. So even after transformation, that which has been transformed can be seen or can be identified as what it was before transformation. That is the idea. So that means it is comparatively permanent. Comparatively permanent. It is comparatively permanent. And what do you mean by comparatively permanent? That means it is more just towards the beginning, I told you, it is there for a longer time than the other. That is parinami nityam. So there are various features or characteristics of a particular entity, and whatever transformation takes place, that does not change the predominant characteristic of that entity. Predominant characteristic of that entity. That is what parinami nityam. So sometimes we see that in this world, for example, he will say, in this world, so many changes take place, but then we think this world is not changing. In world, so many things are changing, but world itself is not changing. So tatra kinchit parinami nityam syat. So in that, some are considered as parinami nityam, that it is without change even while there is transformation going on. Yasmin vikriyamane api tadaeva idam iti buddhihi na vihanyate. This idea that though there is change or transformation is there, but still it is, that transformation does not affect. That means it is considered changeless. Though transformation is there, that particular entity is considered changeless. Why? Because that particular entity vikriyamane api tadeva idam iti buddhihi na vihanyate. This vikriya means transformation, modification. So yasmin vikriyamane api, even though that particular entity is transformed, tadeva idam iti buddhihi na vihanyate. The idea or the cognition, the understanding that this is that, tadeva idam, means this what you see is nothing but that. This what you see as restricted or etc. transformed is nothing but that which was not transformed. Iti buddhihi na vihanyate. So the moment you show, this is the same thing, just look at it carefully, then you remember, oh, correct, this is the same thing. Because the transformation, you are unable to spot. You're unable to spot the transformation. So even though it is transformed, it can be identified based on its condition before transformation. Like that, entities are there. So that example is also given. Yatha, just like Prithiviyadi Jagat Nityatva Vadinam. Just like as far as the Vadi means philosophers here, actually, those who have this particular standpoint, that is Vadi. So Jagat Nityatva Vadinam, of people who believe in the Nityatva. Nityatva means who believe in the permanence of this universe. So there are some people who believe that this universe will continue to remain like this. So for them, Prithivyadi, so for them, this Prithivyadi means this universe, etc. Though there are so many changes taking place in this universe, that particular universe or earth itself is not going to get destroyed. It is not going to get destroyed. So that universe itself is not going to get destroyed. Only some things will change in the universe. That is what Jagat Nityatva Vadin or Jagat Nityatva Vadi, they believe. They believe that this universe will be there without any change, but there will be some change. So Jagat Nityatva, this universe is the ultimate reality. Universe is the ultimate reality, or it is Jagat Nityatva, eternal. That is what some people will say from that school of thought. Yathava Sankhyanam Gunaha. Also for Sankhya philosophy people, Gunaha. So for Sankhya philosophy people, then those who follow Sankhya, for them what is it? Gunaha. For them, those gunas, they consider guna to be there. So they, though there is some transformation happening in gunas, even then gunas can be identified. Gunas can be identified. So this is in the opinion of Sankhya, that gunas are eternal. Gunas are eternal, or gunas change, but they will be eternal. So that is what Parinami Nityam. Parinami Nityam means they will change, but that change will be there, but the entity will also be there. Entity will also, entity in which the change takes place, that will be there for a longer time. And here it does not end. Here then he says, Idam tu Paramarthikam Kutastha Nityam Vyomavat Sarvavyapi Sarvakriya-rahitam Nityatriptam Niravayavam Swayam Jyotihi Swabhavam Yatra Dharma Dharmau Saha Karyena Kalatrayam Chano Upavartate. So here he tells, Idam tu Paramarthikam Kutastha Nityam. Now this, what is this? It is Paramarthika. Idam, this self, or this moksha, or this unembodied state. Unembodied state. Ashariratvam. Moksha Akyam. Moksha. That which is called as moksha. So here Paramarthikam. Paramarthikam means absolute. Paramarthikam, absolute. Kutastha nityam. It is kutastha. It is immutable. It is immutable. Kutastha nityam. So it is eternal and immutable. Kutastha nityam. And Vyomavat sarva vyapi. And also like the Vyoma or space, like space, it is what? It is sarva vyapi. It is all pervading. Like space, it is all pervading. All pervading. Sarva vikriya rahitam. And it has got, it is free from all kinds of vikriya. Vikriya means modifications. All kinds of modifications. Rahitam is not there. Nitya triptam. And it is ever content. It is ever content. It is content, ever content. Niravayavam. And it does not have any kinds of avayava, organs. It does not have any kind of organs. Niravayavam. Or it does not have any part. It is indivisible. Avayava means part. It does not have any parts or it is indivisible. Niravayavam. Swayam Jyoti Swabhavam. Swayam Jyoti Swabhavam. It is of the nature, Swabhava, of the nature of Swayam Jyoti, self-luminous. So Swayam Jyoti, self-luminous. It is light by itself, self-luminous. Swayam Jyoti Swabhavam. Yatra dharma adharmau saha. Yatra dharma adharmau saha. Karyena kalatrayam cha na upavartete. So there, if that be the case, that the Atman or Brahman is kutastha nityam vyomavat, if that is the case, that it is immutably real, that it is like space, sarva vyapi, it is all pervading, sarva vikriya rahitam, and it is free from all modifications. If that is the case, then ashariratvam mokshakyam anyatra dharma. If that is the case, yatra, in that case, dharma adharmau saha karyena kalatrayam cha na upavartete. So if that is the case, then dharma adharmau saha karyena, then by with dharma and adharma, karyena saha, along with their result, kalatrayam cha na upavartete. Kalatrayam, in the past, present and future, they cannot upavartete, they cannot come close, come close, upavartete. That means the idea is that if this is the nature of Brahman or Atman, then there is no question at all. Unquestionably, without any doubt, when a person is engaged in dharma or adharma, and also with the fruits of dharma and adharma, then this na upavarteta, they don't come near. Means there is no connection whatsoever with the performance of dharma and adharma and the true nature of Atman or Brahman. There is no connection. And this connection is not there in Kalatrayam, in past, present and future. Tadetat ashariratvam mokshakyam anyatra dharmat anyatra adharmat anyatra asmat krita kritat anyatra bhutacha bhavyacha ityadi shrutibhyah. Also in other Shrutis it is told, that is here it is Kathopanishad, what is told that tad etad, this is that, tad etad, this is that, ashariratvam moksha, ashariratvam mokshakhyam. This is that which is called Atma or Brahman, or which is the unembodied state, ashariratvam. Mokshakhyam, and which is called moksha, which is given the name termed moksha. And what is that? Anyatra dharmat, anyatra adharmat, anyatra asmat, krita akritat, anyatra bhutacha, bhavyacha. Kathopanishad. Anyatra dharmat, anyatra adharmat. So it is different from, dharma. Dharma anyatra. And it is different from adharma. Adharmat anyatra. And it is different from asmat krita akritat. It is different from what now, what is done and what is not done. That which is accomplished and that which is unaccomplished. So that is the idea here. It is so different. What is different? Self is different. Atman is, Brahman is different from dharmat. It is different from dharma. It is different from adharma. And it is different from anyatra bhutacha bhavyacha. Whatever things, bhutacha, whatever things are there in the past or a thing of the past, bhavyacha, also a thing of the future. So it is different from the past, different from the future. Ityadi Shrutibhyaha. So this is what is told in the Shrutis or in the Upanishads. And so, Ataha, therefore, Tad Brahma, that Brahman, Yasya Iyam Jigyasa Prastuta. So therefore, this moksha is definitely that Brahman. Moksha is definitely that Brahman for which Ataha Tad Brahma. Tad means that moksha. Moksha is Brahman. Yasyayam Jigyasa Prastuta. Prastuta is presented. Presented. What is presented? Yasya Iyam Jigyasa, of which this desire to know is presented. So it is Athato Brahma Jigyasa. Thereafter, now a desire to know Brahman. Athato Brahma Jigyasa. Desire to know Brahman is presented here. So that Jigyasa, that is the desire to know Brahman, is presented, Prastuta here. Tad Brahma Yasya Iyam Jigyasa Prastuta. And that of which this inquiry is, that is nothing but it is Brahman. It is Brahman. Now Shankaracharya turns to another point. Earlier in the arguments of the fourth sutra, the opponent or the Purva Paksha had said that a particular karma or a Vedic karma has subsidiary things which is necessary, subsidiary requirements. So if a Vedantic or Vedic passage talks of either a particular Vedic ritual or things which have to be done to participate in that Vedic ritual, that is subsidiaries, or some kind of meditation or contemplation also was taken as karma, also were taken as actions. So karma. So that is why there it was said that the Vedas will become meaningful. This was the objection of the Purva Paksha, that is Mimamsakas, that Vedas will become meaningful, they will have prayojana Only when they talk of either some particular prohibition or injunction or prohibition to do or not to do a particular Vedic ritual, or that they are subsidiary to a particular Vedic ritual. Means Vedic ritual is there, it is talked of in some other place, but here in the Vedantic passages, maybe there is a subsidiary requirement to a particular Vedic ritual. Or the third one was that it is talking about some contemplation or meditation. Only then it can be considered as something which is meaningful. Because otherwise, without any work, without any injunction to do a Vedic ritual, a Vedic statement, according to the Purva Paksha, that is Mimamsakas, is useless. So here, that is what is being told. Tadyadi, that is the unembodied state. That is the state which is also called moksha. Yadi, if kartavya sheshatvena upadishyeta, if it were upadishyeta means if it were to be explained or taught as being a subsidiary to a Vedic injunction, if it were said that you see being subsidiary to Vedic injunction is what is kartavya, or it is what is the unembodied state. Unembodied state or the state of moksha is something which is necessary to perform a action. That is what kartavya shesha. That tad yadi upadishyeta. Like that, if it is told, tena cha kartavyena sadhyaschet moksha abhyupagamyeta. Then what will happen? Moksha, what will happen to moksha? If one were to say like this, that kartavya sheshatvena upadishyeta, that the unembodied state is nothing but a subsidiary to Vedic injunction. If one were to say like that, then what will happen? Then tena cha kartavyena sadhyah chet moksha abhyupagamyeta. Then it will lead to this kind of logical conclusion. Logical conclusion that tena kartavyena sadhyah, that moksha or unembodied state called moksha is possible. Unembodied state called moksha is possible because of performing a particular Vedic ritual. So this Vedic ritual will lead to moksha, or moksha will be dependent on performing this Vedic ritual. If that is the case, abhyupagamyeta. And if that is the case, if one were to take that, you see, this unembodied state is produced by, because that was one of the objections of Purva Paksha, that unembodied state is produced by Vedic performance or Vedic ritual. If that is the case, then what will happen? Then this unembodied state will become the fruit of a Vedic ritual. Kartavyena sadhyah chet. If we were to take that, moksha abhyupagamyeta, then moksha will become a fruit. Moksha or unembodied state will become a fruit of the results of action. And that will lead to the absurd conclusion that moksha is unreal or moksha is temporary. Why? Because anything that is produced is temporary. Anything that is the result of something, some action is temporary. So whatever is produced has to be destroyed. Jatasya hi dhruvam mrityuhu. In the Gita it is said, that which is produced or that which is born is definitely going to die or getting destroyed. So if one were to say that by doing this kartavya, by doing this Vedic injunction, following the Vedic injunction, by doing this Vedic ritual, one would get moksha. That means moksha is the result of this Vedic ritual. Then that will lead to this particular funny situation where moksha itself is transitory. Moksha itself will be anitya. So that cannot be so. That cannot be so. Tatra evam sati, if that were the case, yatha ukta karma phaleshu eva. So tatra evam sati, if that were the case, yatha ukta karma phaleshu eva. As it has been told, yathokta karma phaleshu eva. Yathokta karma phaleshu eva. Then this karma phala, that means the phala or the fruits of Vedic rituals, taratamya avasthiteshu anityeshu kaschit atishayo moksha iti prasajyeta. So taratamya avasthiteshu. Now what happens if this tatra evam sati, that means if this unembodied state called moksha, if it were to be the result of some kind of performance, that is Vedic ritual, performance of Vedic ritual, and only because of that moksha will be available, if that is the condition, then automatically it goes without saying that moksha is temporary or unreal. But moksha cannot be temporary or unreal. So how does this make sense? Then that is yathokta karma phaleshu eva taratamya avasthiteshu anityeshu kaschid atishayo moksha iti prasajyeta. Then what will happen? Then one may argue that okay, moksha is something which is necessary or which is high. Only thing is, among other actions or other works, moksha or other ritual, performing other ritual, moksha is something which taratamya vastiteshu anityeshu kaschid atishaya. So moksha is somewhat in the taratamya avastiteshu, in the scale or gradation of things. Anityeshu kaschid atishaya moksha. Among the things which are anitya, temporary, and where there is a gradation of these temporary things, then there, in that gradation, atishaya, kinchit, in that gradation, kaschid atishaya, because of having some kind of an excellence, what happens? Moksha iti prasajyeta. It is moksha. It is moksha because moksha, it is little bit better than other anityeshu karma phaleshu, other fruits of action which are anitya, which are temporary, which are unreal. So there are yatha ukta karma phaleshu eva. So indeed, certainly, eva means indeed, certainly. Among the karma phaleshu, among the results which are yatha ukta, yathokta, which have been mentioned above earlier. Taratamya avastiteshu. Taratamya means a comparative scale. So comparison, or here it means a comparative scale. Taratamya avastiteshu. In that scale, which is where there are gradations of what? Gradations of Vedic rituals. Anityeshu kaschid atishayah moksha. Among these rituals which are Anityeshu kaschid atishayah. A little something atishayah, a little something excellent. Atishaya means which is excellent. Moksha iti prasajyeta. It will follow. Prasajyeta means here it means it will make this sentence. So implied meaning is it will make this kind of absurd conclusion possible. Absurd conclusion will come. What is the absurd conclusion? That moksha itself is a little higher place in the gradation or scale of the fruits of Vedic rituals which have been talked of earlier. So here it is another kind of way to say that no kind of action or no action that is Vedic ritual is going to be connected with moksha, because moksha, it has to be free from fruits of actions, fruits of Vedic rituals even. And so anityeshu, among the unreal results or temporary results, kaschid atishayah, a particular sample or a particular result, which is a particular result, kaschid atishayah, is excellent, and that is moksha. So moksha continues to remain unreal. Only thing, it is less unreal than most. That is the idea. And that will be a prasajyata. That kind of a thing will follow. That will be the consequence. And it will be absurd consequence. Absurd consequence. Why it is absurd consequence? Because nityascha moksha sarvaihi mokshavadibihi abhyupagamyate. Because moksha hai nitya hai. Moksha hai nitya hai. Moksha is eternal. Moksha hai nitya hai. Like that, who says sarvaihi mokshavadibihi abhyupagamyate. So it is accepted, abhyupagamyate. It is acknowledged, it is accepted, it is agreed upon by sarvaihi mokshavadibihi. All people who talk of moksha. Mokshavadibihi means all who talk of moksha. All those who talk of moksha are unanimous on this, that moksha is what? Moksha is nitya. Moksha is nitya, it is eternal, it is not temporary. The whole point of moksha is that eternal, it is eternal. If moksha becomes temporary, then what is the point? So again, then you are caught up in the birth and death. You are caught up in that. How are you free? You're not free. If moksha also is transitory, then it will become worse. You will become, you will be born, you will die, then you will be, before death you will do something, and then you will get moksha, and again you will be born. So how can it be? It is ridiculous, absurd. So that is why all moksha vadibihi, all people who talk of moksha, they say nitya moksha hai. Nitya, it is not unreal, it is real, and it is not transitory, it is not temporary, it is rather eternal. Nitya moksha. Sarvaihi mokshavadibhi abhyupagamyate. All moksha, people who talk of moksha, they acknowledge or accept this. Atah, therefore, na kartavya sheshatvena brahma upadesha yukta. It is not yukta, logical or plausible to say that kartavya sheshatvena brahma upadesha. Kartavya sheshatvena brahma upadesha. So Brahma Upadesha or explaining Brahman cannot be seen as Kartavya Sheshatva, as something subsidiary to a Vedic injunction. So explaining Brahman, that is Brahma Upadesha means Brahman cannot be. Explaining Brahman means the nature of Brahman. So explaining Brahman, one cannot explain it that, saying that it is subsidiary to a Vedic ritual. That cannot be said, because then it will not be Brahman. It will be something which is dependent on something. Then this is not dependent. Brahman is not dependent. Brahman is not dependent. So how can you say that Brahman is Kartavya Shesha? It is the subsidiary of a particular Vedic ritual. You cannot say that. So that is why Brahma Upadesha Kartavya Sheshatvena na yukta hai. It is not possible, or it is not logical to place Brahma or to place moksha as near the subsidiary of, or to place moksha or Brahman as the subsidiary of a particular Vedic action. It is not possible. It is not possible. It is not logical. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat. Shri Ram Krishna Arpanamastu. Questions? Any question? No question. Smriti, any questions?
No, Swamiji, there are no questions in the chat box. No questions in the chat box.
No question. So, okay. So no question, then we can finish here. Shubharatri. Shubharatri. Namaste.